As the colors change to fall, the shows just keep getting brighter on Global Voice Broadcasting. Shows about everything that matters to you. From love, living, and life. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it this fall on Global Voice Broadcasting. Don't miss a second.
I highly recommend Ms. Hicks. Her books, her CDs are encouraging.
I bought her book, A Hill to Climb. She's a very inspirational speaker.
And I look forward to one day being able to work with her.
Your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Aspiration, inspiration, motivation, edification, determination. These are the keys of life success brought to you by none other than award-winning author, motivational lecturer, business consultant, and much more as she gets you aimed to your purpose. And now, ladies and gentlemen, young and elder, from Hollywood to the entire world, here is your host of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, Louise Hicks, along with her co-host, yours truly, Kenan Wesley Mason.
Hello world. How is everybody today? And welcome to Aim to Purpose, the radio show. And we wanted to share something with you upbeat at the top of the hour. So we shared that little video because we know the holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving is next up in a few weeks, and we have a great show for you today. Again, I am Louise Hicks, the host of Aim to Purpose, the radio show.
And I am Kenan Mason, your co-host, and I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone listening and watching Aim to Purpose, the radio show, right here at Global Voice Broadcasting. And we are going into the holidays. It's the month of November, and the holidays are upon us, and we do have a special guest here to talk about the holidays, as the topic of today is feeding the soul on Thanksgiving. As our guest today is marriage and family therapist, author, and lifestyle blogger, Michelle Deen.
And we will welcome Michelle on the show in a little bit, but we just like to share a little bit. We always shared what we've done and how the week has gone for us, and we hope your week has gone as well also. I had an opportunity yesterday to be on a radio show for an interview, and it was exciting. It was informative. I had a great time with the host of the show, TS Radio, Marty Oakley and Debbie Domer. It was a great show, and we talked about mental health reform, in which we know that there is a crisis here in America and perhaps in other parts of the world also when it comes to mental health, mental illness. And we know as we go about our day-to-day lives, often we may think, well, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't impact me, but actually the mental health system affects everybody. It impacts all of us because we've heard about all the violence that's been going on and the shootings and lives being taken. And most of the time it's related to a psychiatric psychotropic drug.
That's right.
So therefore, and our taxes are paying for a lot of the these criminals that are locked up, and some is not due to their own psychic. It's due a lot, and often it appears to be due to the psychotropic drugs. So this does impact all of us. And on the show yesterday with Marty and Debbie on TS Radio, Blog Talk Radio, we talked about a lot of those things and what we as the public needs to do, because this is a crisis. It's an epidemic that 70% of our nation is on prescription drugs. That is a crisis, and we need to deal with that. And I know Ken might want to add something that we need to.
Yeah, it is something that we need to deal with. It's become a crisis here in America, but now we're finding that it's becoming an equal crisis across the planet. We are a global broadcast, so we know of countless other countries and communities within those countries that are going through the same things with the pharmacy drugs and psychotropic drugging of children, and it is an epidemic, and which is one of the reasons, or if not the chief reason, that you started your Go Mental campaign.
Go Mental for Change campaign.
Go Mental for Change.
Yes, that's why I started it, because I've been dealing with this broken system, and it is severely broken here in America, and I've been dealing with it for 20 years, and it's personal for me because of my son, who's 34 now, that was diagnosed with a rare bone cancer 20 years ago. So I have been dealing with this. It's difficult to get help for your loved ones here in America because of the Catch-22 laws that are in existence. And then when we reach out to our political leaders, the politicians, often we are ignored, or we're sent a boilerplate letter, something generic like what I was sent. And we have to start raising our voices, and we must join forces together in unity, because as I said, this is a crime against humanity. And the more of us that come out and understand this, and the more awareness that we bring to the society about this drugging, these dangerous drugs that are perpetrated upon innocent ones, particularly children who often do not need these drugs. There is no blood test or anything to diagnose a person. Even psychiatrists are admitting that themselves, and it's all subjective. And we need to realize that
childhood is not a mental illness,
right,
or a mental disorder.
Absolutely. Children
have emotions, and they do express them more freely than we do as adults. Children, we don't give them enough credit for their intelligence capacity. We tend to take away some of their faculties as they become older, with perpetuating our own lifestyles, and it rubs off on the child, not allowing them to be expressive, not allowing them to learn about their own selves, learn about how to develop their own endeavors in life, and how they want to be creative and create their own journeys in life. And the mental health era and this cancer, for the last 4 weeks, I've made a challenge to all of our listeners for doing something different when it comes to the diagnoses of cancer, as we had Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the month of October. But because of this show today, all the things to be thankful for, I'm thankful that I know that there are other options out there for people that have mental health challenges, for people that have been diagnosed for cancer. I'm thankful that I do have information that I can give to others and give suggestions and recommendations on how to change and get well from a mental illness or mental health challenge or cancer, and just be thankful that that there is something different. There always is another way to heal and have the most abundant life possible.
And that's what we all should be striving toward. And I am thankful and grateful that we have this platform so that we can share guests like our guest today, Michelle Deen, who is a family, marriage and family therapist, as well as an author, as we mentioned, and a lifestyle blogger, so that we can shed light on the obvious, because that's what we all should be striving for, to live our best life. And
that's right.
Feeding the soul, the SOUL, on Thanksgiving, and how to enjoy each other as a family and look toward the holidays as being the love, a light of love, a light of joy, and not just about the material things that many look forward to, because that's really not what it's all about.
That's right.
So we're going to get into talking to Michelle in a few minutes. So if you have nothing else, Ken, we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and introduce our special guest.
Yes, as always, call in if you want to chime in on this subject. As always, 1-323-522-5482 from anywhere around the world. 1-323-522-5482. Michelle Deen is our guest, and we will be. Go ahead.
I just want to thank again Marty Oakley and Debbie Dahmer for having me on TS Radio yesterday, and where we really got into a lot of informative topics and issues about the mental health reform that's needed here in America. And again, I look forward to coming back. They have invited me back to their show, and I've invited them to come on our show. So sometime next season, we will have Marty Oakley and Debbie Dahmer on our show. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
This edition of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, is brought to you by L. Hicks Consulting Services. When you want the best in business coaching, life coaching, or perhaps your organization, business, or company is in need of a dynamic speaker for an upcoming workshop or seminar, contact Louise Hicks for L. Hicks Consulting Services at 1-562-310-1495. From anywhere around the world, that's 1-562-310-1495. For more information about Louise Hicks and her consulting services, visit her website at www.louisehicks.biz. Again, that's www.louisehicks.biz. Or call 1-562-310-1495. L. Hicks Consulting Services, where professionalism is top priority.
Once again, hello world. We are back. I am your host, Louise Hicks of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, along with my co-host and my son, Kenan Wesley Mason. So let's go ahead and introduce our special guest for today.
Yes, Michelle Deen is a marriage and family therapist and author of the upcoming book, Rethinking Family Values. She also writes a blog called American Culture on the Couch that sheds light on our sold-out society, the effects on our kids, and what we can do about it. Today, she's here to talk about feeding the soul on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the most popular holiday in our country for family gatherings. Often, holidays can be a time of great stress, adding a whole new set of to-dos that have you running around in get things done mode rather than just being grounded and savoring the moment. When this happens, you miss the whole purpose of the holiday, to connect, experience, and celebrate together as a family. Let's give a warm Aim to Purpose welcome to our special guest, Miss Michelle Deen.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Here, Ken. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, and thank you for joining us today with such an amazing topic that's right on time. Right on time, because feeding the soul on Thanksgiving is more than just taking in that turkey. Isn't that correct, Michelle?
That's right. And I just wanted to address our global audience who may not celebrate Thanksgiving. What I have to say here, I think, could apply to particularly Western cultures now that technology is kind of overtaking our lives. And I would love to hear if there's anybody out there from other cultures. I would love to hear from them because I'm always interested in learning more about how other people live and trying to figure out ways in which we might be able to learn from them.
Great. That's a great point. Excellent point. Yeah, so with that said, we know that you have 10 points that you're going to share with us, tips actually, to help us facilitate ourselves through the holidays with our families and loved ones and friends and so forth. So why don't we just get right into those 10 tips for feeding the soul on Thanksgiving? And I know we've kind of broken them up into segments here, and the first one we're going to talk about is the distractions. So what are these distractions and how can we mitigate them on Thanksgiving? And what do you mean by the soul first? Let's do that one first.
Exactly. So I'd like to quote Thomas More, who wrote the book Care of the Soul. I don't think anybody can define it better than he. And he says, soul is not a thing, but a quality or a dimension of experiencing life and ourselves. It has to do with depth, value, and relatedness, heart, and personal substance. So essentially, being soulful is being very mindful and aware of the subtleties in life. He also had a definition of what he thought the family soul wanted. And oftentimes when we talk about family values, we think of it, traditional family values, we think of it in terms of a particular structure. Mom, dad, kids, 2.2 kids, picket fence. But I love what he has to say about the family. He says, a family is not an abstract cultural idea. A man, a woman, and children living blissfully in a mortgaged house on a quiet neighborhood street. The family the soul wants is a felt network of relationship, an evocation of a certain kind of interconnection that grounds, roots, and nestles. So this really is what family's about. I mean, when people think about families, you kind of get the warm, fuzzy thing when you're thinking about them in a positive light. Right. And we won't go to the negative light today.
Right.
There's plenty of that as well. But this really is what it's about. And it's like, how do we enhance this interconnection? Because today we're all in such a hurry. We're all, running after success and we're running after things. How do we kind of slow down and remember to connect?
You're so right. You're so right about that. And success materialistically, and that's what many of us are chasing. We don't realize that success encompasses so much more.
That's right. And I think that is kind of a big problem that we have in America today, really losing sight of what matters. And, you can see it in our daily interactions. For example, I'll go walking along a park here in Santa Barbara, and, I see parents out there on the playground with their kids, but they're on their cell phones.
Right.
And, and it's just like,
right.
What's here? Or you have the kids sitting at the table in the restaurant with an iPad in front of them.
Right.
And really losing our ability, or we're forgetting about what matters. We're forgetting about those connections. So anyway, that's the whole kind of point of this topic today.
Yes, and great point too that you just made, because when you mentioned Santa Barbara, she's talking about beautiful Santa Barbara, California.
Yeah.
I love it out there in Santa Barbara, California. We're here in Hollywood, California. Love it here where we are too. We have a beautiful studio. But you're so right about the distractions, and when you see these kids out here playing, often we've gotten so wrapped up in these distractions until we don't even pay our little ones any attention, and we're wondering why they're getting kidnapped and stolen right from under our noses, because we're more involved with our cell phone or our iPad or tablet than we are focused on our children. We're losing sight.
When you go into a restaurant, any type of family restaurant, and you look at the round table or the circle, half circle booth, and you see five or six family members, and 5 out of those 6 people will be on their cell phones, not interacting with each other, not speaking about how their days were, not speaking about any future endeavors or masterminding how to progress in life. It's always the text message. I have to text my girlfriend about this. I got to text my boyfriend about this. Things that are absolutely unimportant in life. And it is a distraction because, again, it takes away from the social and emotional value of what family is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a big distraction. I think it borders on addiction, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah.
And particularly, I'm concerned about the kids, teenagers. They, very rarely do they have any time away from technology where they can let their mind wander, where they can ponder life, where they can think about things, where they can get creative.
Right.
And it's just this constant distraction, or even read, for goodness sakes.
Oh,
People don't
please.
read anymore.
Reading is a lost art these days.
Yeah, so it's a problem, and I'm really, hoping to kind of bring this into our awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how to get rid of those type of distractions. What do you suggest on how to remedy that? Because we do see teenagers 90% of the time they're on their cell phone and nothing else.
Right. Well, there's 2 things. One is you need to set limits with the kids who have the technology, and it needs to be seen as more of a privilege as opposed to a right.
Right.
And secondly, the parents themselves have to be aware of how much they are overusing their phones, et cetera, the texting, because they're setting an example, and it's very hard to, try to create a rule for a teen when you're not,
Oh, yeah.
you're not shining an example yourself.
That's
so
right.
I just think it always starts with the parents, and you really have to, take a deep, recognize when you're, doing something on the phone that absolutely does not have to be done.
Yeah.
And, taking a deep breath, putting it down, and just trying to connect, whether it's with your own feelings and emotions or a project, hopefully a non-work project if you're at home,
Right.
that you're working on, or, engage the children in something. Maybe they could help you with dinner. It's just about, number 1, being aware, and then number 2, taking steps to make changes.
That's right. Yeah, well, being a new parent myself, well, it's 15 months now. Being on the 4th of this month, November, my daughter will be 15 months. But being a new parent, you really become, well, I have at least, I've really become self-aware of how I utilize my time on either the cell phone or the computer, because I know that my daughter is watching and she will mimic the things that her parents do. And to limit my time on those on technology devices, it will be that she is going to have her time limited on technology, and she will be in the books, because there's nothing better than having a tactile contact with an open book. Or with some other form of substance that will stimulate the left and right hemispheres of the brain.
That's right.
Which technology actually does a reversal.
Yes. And just a kind of a personal example, some of my fondest memories were from, reading my daughter books. And I was just cleaning out our basement, and there's boxes and boxes of her books, which I cannot get rid of because each book, each story reminds me of that really sweet time curling up with her and reading these stories over and over and over again.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they're sentimental, yes.
That's right. And I think that those are the types of things that will, that kids will remember as well. And it helps them feel like they matter because you're spending time with them. It helps them, get engaged in a story. Stories are fabulous ways for, like you mentioned, for brain development. And it's, it's one of the best things. And I think we're missing out on it.
And this is why you say to completely unplug, meaning to really get yourself for at least a few hours or so. Take yourself out of the matrix for a minute and look for something in a different direction other than the technology of the day, unless it's something for doing something for the success of your business or something to that effect. But usually most teenagers are doing everything for recreational purposes and have nothing to do with any future endeavors. And that's the reason to unplug.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a lot of contact, but it's not meaningful contact. It's distracting contact.
That's right.
So, and I feel like that, kids today are going to miss out on, just really learning how to connect. We already have an empathy deficit in our world or our culture anyway.
Yeah.
And when you're not, looking at somebody in the eye, it's really well known that, kids will bully over the internet because there's not eye contact.
Right.
And it's, they're more apt to do that, via cell phone or via Facebook or via Instagram, whatever it is that they're doing, than they will, face to face.
Right.
And we're kind of losing that feeling for each other.
Right.
But in terms of unplugging, I mean, I know that that's probably not realistic and it's more like a one day at a time thing, but I would say that if people can set the challenge for themselves on Thanksgiving, if you can completely unplug for just one day, maybe take care of whatever business you have, and by 8 a.m. or whatever time you get up, you're going to then unplug and see what happens. I mean, you might be surprised at what you will experience with your kids, your, loved ones, when you wouldn't necessarily do that while you're, on the cell phone texting.
You're so right about what you're saying, Michelle, because today's technology is so different than what the previous years were. Like when my kids were growing up, my son here, Kenan, as well as my other two children, when they were growing up, we didn't have all of the technology that we have today. It was coming in to play as the video games and all of that, but it wasn't as prevalent, and everybody didn't have a cell phone. They had the pagers, a few people back then, I would read bedtime stories, like you said, to your children. I did that with my children. I would read bedtime stories. In the summer, I would take them to the library and get books and make them write
book report.
A book report. And see, he remembered that because I would do that. And you know what? I would read the book too, so that I could make sure that they were writing from the book, and if they hadn't read it, they had perused it basically like I had done, so that I knew they had done something over the summer, as opposed to doing nothing but playing video games, not even going outside on the computer all day, that type of thing. We do have to, and you've made a very valid point here about completely unplugging and having parents to set limits and really set an example for their children. I love that. And also you talk about the television and the malls and stores. So how do you remedy that?
Especially at this time of the year.
Yeah. Okay. So just a quickie about the TV. I know on Thanksgiving Day here, there's, big things on TV like the Macy's Day Parade or your favorite football game or whatever. And so, I'm not saying to deprive yourself of that, but, if you can make it kind of a family affair, number one, and number two, if you can just designate the time that you're going to be on watch TV, because, having it on just in the background, creating noise,
Right.
does not set you up for kind of a soulful experience.
Right.
So I would suggest, decide, how when you want to have the TV on, and and just limit it. And then in terms of the malls and stores, this is kind of my little pet peeve here is, that consumerism is just leaking into every area of our lives.
It is.
And it's become, kind of the value that we worship the most. And in terms of, if you're going to leave your house on Thanksgiving Day to run to get in line for
Black
sale,
Friday.
what are you, really, your behaviors tell you what your values are. Your value is to get in there and to get the deals, which, everybody loves a deal, but let's face it, most of these deals that you're searching for are stuff that you don't even need.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true, Michelle.
It's nothing that you have to sleep outside in front of the store all night for.
Exactly. And the way I look at it, and this helps me tremendously. It's like, okay, look, you are not getting a big bargain here. These corporations have it figured out.
Oh, yeah.
They want to get you into the store, and they're doing that in any way they can, slashing prices on the flat screen TV. So it's a trick. They get you into the store, and what they want to do is get you to be spending your money there, your Christmas, budget there, rather than another store. So you get in there, and then you see this, and then you see that. And it's their way of competing with other corporations. And so if you look at it as you're kind of a pawn in this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. And most people don't even know it.
That's right. So that's what I'm saying. That's kind of a helpful way to look at it. It's like, no, I'm not missing out on the best deal. And yes, there's going to be more deals between now and Christmas.
That's
Believe
right.
you me.
And after Christmas, too.
That's right.
And you don't
That's
have
the
to,
best time to go.
And you don't have to rush out to pull that plastic out and then regret it for the rest of the year.
That's right. And I think corporations really try to take advantage of the holidays to hook you in. Mm-hmm. So I get an email today from an online store, and the subject line was "Home for the Holidays." So I click on it, and what it is a bunch of things that you can buy to decorate your home and your table with. And there was this banner with each flag was hanging down off of this one string, and it says, what did it say? Giving thanks. It's like, okay, you do not need to buy that to give thanks.
Right.
Absolutely. No matter how enticing it might be, huh?
That's right. It's nice to set up your home and, make it beautiful. That too is a part of being soulful. But there's so many things that we get lured into buying that we absolutely do not need, number one. And number two, buying that is not giving thanks. You're hanging it on your wall. If you're going to give thanks, it's a whole different experience.
Right.
So there are really lots of meaningful ways, and I know you're going to give us those that we can give thanks to everyone, and we can. It's just so many ways that doesn't really cost you, like going to a nursing home, reading to someone, or making up a homemade card to go and give to the staff that takes care of your loved one. It's just so many ways of giving thanks and having those thankful moments, as opposed to being tricked to go out and spend your money. Like you said, we're being used as pawns in so many ways here in our society. And who is it getting rich? And these people are laughing all the way to the bank while the masses are still struggling along just to make ends meet. And we have to learn how to be thankful, and how, as you said, the topic here, feeding the soul on Thanksgiving. And if we can move on now, so you can give us some meaningful moments of how, with some more tips on how we really can be thankful and feed our soul on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a matter of pausing and taking inventory and really thinking about what it is you are grateful for. And oftentimes we don't appreciate what we have until we don't have it anymore. You know, health is a great example. It's like, how incredibly fortunate are people who have their health?
Right.
And
Yes.
and just as an example, and there's, you know, a million and one other things that anybody can be thankful for, of course, but just as a point, what I have found is that if you are feeling grateful for something, you will feel joy. It is absolutely impossible to feel grateful and not feel joy at the same time.
That's right.
And there's a quote out there. I wish I had it at my fingertips, and I don't even remember who said it. But basically, it says, "Joy does not make people grateful. Gratitude makes people joyful."
Oh, yes.
And it's really, you know, a whole different twist on you know, what it is that we need to be happy, and it's really about being grateful. And we don't need to run to the store to be happy, to get, you know, the newest iPhone or whatever it is that you're you know, lusting after. So so I would just say,
I like that word you said, Michelle, lusting after, because that's what we're doing. We're lusting after things.
After stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And what do you do with all this stuff?
Yeah. Exactly. You know, it ends up in the landfill eventually.
Right.
But so I would say, you know, really make an effort to pause and create a time where you can give thanks. You know, a perfect time would be, you know, sitting around the dinner table. And it could be, it could be a form of prayer just by giving thanks. You don't have to even be religious to, you know, pause and give thanks. Yeah. That's something that's a very soulful experience. And it fills you up when you stop and think about it.
Yeah.
The other way to create meaningful moments is if the adults in the room could be grandparents, aunts, uncles, mom, dad. If there's mixed generations, it's fabulous. But if the adults in the room could share stories about their childhood or their young adulthood, kids love hearing about their, you know, parents, grandparents, their stories. And this is really the way that we communicate values to our kids. It's not telling them, I want you to be a nice person, but it's telling them a story maybe about the time where, you know, there was a bully and you decided to help him out when somebody else was, this bully was mean to you and you decided to help him out when somebody else had hurt him or something like that. Right. You know, it's like those types of things that kids just love to hear, what you've done. And it's it's an indirect but very powerful way to teach children. It's bringing a lesson through meaning.
That's right.
So if kids can feel something when you're telling a story, that is when they're going to learn the most.
Yeah.
And it's engaging more parts of the brain, you know, as all this research is done on this and learning. It's like when you can bring meaning to anything, it will resonate. It will stick with them. I think it's Maya Angelou who said, people will forget what you've told them, but they won't forget how you made them feel.
That's right.
And yeah, so that's another way to create a meaningful moment is sharing stories. And then traditions. You know, you can start a new one or engage in an old tradition, but it's something that kind of anchors the day. Sometimes it could be something that someone looks forward to. It could be the mom looking forward to using her good china. It could be the kids looking forward to that football game that you play after dinner. It could be, you know, the dad, the whole family looking forward to, you know, maybe watching the Macy's Day Parade. So if you have a tradition, or if you can start a tradition, that too brings meaning. And it's a thing that anchors the soul is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing I had in this category was to acknowledge any family members that may no longer be with you and share memories about them.
I love that. I love how you've defined these creative ways to help family members and help loved ones get through the Thanksgiving Day in a happy way, in a joyful way, and be thankful. I mean, what's the most important thing we can have is our health. And I'm glad you brought that one to the top of the moments and meaningful moments that we can share to feed the soul, because our health is the most valuable commodity that we really have. And if you don't have good health, that's really puts a shadow on your life and your lifestyle and how much you can do if your health is not there. And the stories, I love stories, Michelle.
Yeah.
I love stories. And I used to listen to my grandmother and my mother. We used to sit on our front porch in Louisiana. I've shared on the show before. I'm from Louisiana. And we would sit on our front porch and we would share stories. My grandparents would share stories with us, my mother, and we loved it. And it does instill values into you. And we need those in today's crisis and the things that we're going through now in America. This is something that is so much needed, the values we instill in our children. And it's so powerful, like you said, when we go and we sit and we talk, because we know we don't do that often anymore. We don't sit and talk at a family dinner because our lives are so scattered now, here and there and everywhere. We're going every which way, like you stated that. And it's amazing how we have lost so much in our values in today's age because of technology and all of the distractions. So I'm so glad that you are bringing back the traditions and how it used to be, really, because those are the things that we used to value the most. And that's great.
And because of that, I mean, yeah, I like the stories as well, because with children, there becomes an emotional connection between the child and the mother or the father, or even the grandparents, because children love their grandparents to a whole nother degree.
Exactly.
Where there's a parent, the grandchild connection. I see it with my daughter and my mom and how they interact with each other.
Sure do, and that's my only grandbaby, and I love her so much, and we have so much fun together, and I tell her stories too, even though she's only 15 months, will be on the 4th of this month. I tell her stories, and I share with her, and I tell, my kids hear me sometimes, I'm saying, one day you guys will be sharing this story with her about when so-and-so and so-and-so, and it brings back memories to my kids when I used to tell them stories, and I still do sometimes. I share stories from what my grandparents used to tell me. So it's just awesome when we can sit and do those things. It just brings about so much more love. And this is what the holidays should really be about, is love of one another. Not just your immediate family, but love of humanity, which we have gotten so far away from.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, what you're saying about the grandparent and grandchild, that is a very special relationship.
It is.
And yeah, I mean, it's like the best of both worlds. You've got this adult that has, you know, a bank account and keys, but they don't know what to do.
Right.
It's true. It's amazing, but I never knew. My friends would always tell me, oh, it's just so amazing I with my grandchildren, because they all had grandchildren and I didn't have any until a year and a half ago, just about. And I'm just ecstatic over how she makes me feel and how I make her feel, because I can tell by her interaction with me. This little girl is just my joy. She's my pride and joy.
That's right. And you mentioned research as well. I mean, it's well researched and documented that, like you mentioned the Maya Angelou quote about how you feel. The emotions are more powerful than the words you speak, because no matter what language it is, it's the emotion behind the words that make the difference versus the words themselves.
That's
so
true.
so you're always going to remember the feeling something or somebody gave you at a certain point in your life experience.
And that's true. It kind of brings back the Oprah Winfrey series, where we saw the belief series. No matter what culture you were in, the beliefs they had tied in to the feelings they had and the love they had. It was moving. That series was very moving. Beliefs. It was very powerful and moving. And with that said, I think we need to go to a break, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about, because the holidays should be fun.
That's right.
And we know you've laid out some fun things as well, and it should be all about fun too. So let's take a break, and we're gonna come back and talk some more with Michelle Deen, our special guest, marriage and family therapist, author, and lifestyle blogger. And we're talking about feeding the soul on Thanksgiving, and we're having a wonderful conversation here with Michelle Deen. So we'll be right back.
Hello, world. Hey, it's the 1-year anniversary of Aim to Purpose, the radio show. So first, we thank the staff at Global Voice Broadcasting for the platform and the opportunity. Go to gvbstudios.com/show/A2P. Next, we thank our wonderful guests that have graced the airwaves of Aim to Purpose over the past year, like Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn from the documentary Forks Over Knives, Nazir Alim Bey with his soon-to-be-released documentary entitled Melanin, the God Particle, from the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, Dr. Jeffrey A. Shaler, and Professor Baron K. Brown, who's become a regular on the show. Internationally, we've had guests such as Bridget Nkuna and Sarah Jane Farrell from South Africa, award-winning author F.T. Camargo from Brazil, Brenda Pierce, the Empowered Nurse from Canada, double Olympic medalist from the British cycling team Brian Steele, and many other great guests that have openly shared their knowledge, humor, wit, and wisdom with the A2P universe. And most important, we thank you, the listening and viewing audience, for tuning in each and every Monday. Information is power, and the more our audience grows, the more open minds that'll receive the information, which makes all of us powerful. So we encourage all of you to spread the word about Aim to Purpose, the radio show. Lastly, if you know someone with a product, business, or foundation that's interested in advertising as a sponsor for the show, contact A2P host Louise Hicks at louisehicks.biz or Shamika Brown at divinebrownmedia.com. Be a part of the A2P movement, as there is always power in numbers of like minds that multiply. And follow us on social media at Aim to Purpose, #A2P. Once again, thank you all from Aim to Purpose, the radio show.
We are back, and as I said, we are talking to our special guest today, Michelle Deen. And our topic today is feeding the soul on Thanksgiving. And we're having a great conversation, and Michelle has shared some very, very interesting, informative, amazing tips with us that will help us to have a special Thanksgiving, family Thanksgiving of love and caring and sharing, which she's already given us some tips about distractions, and then how to make the day meaningful with meaningful moments and sharing with families. And now we're going to get into the fun part of it because we know it should be fun, right, Michelle?
Oh, absolutely. You know, in families, you run the whole gamut. You feel everything from fury to love, and it's important to really connect over joy. And one thing that I would suggest is, you know, we get so caught up in what we have to do, and we get stressed out about making it perfect, or about everything that we have to do. It's like, try to just drop all of that and remember that to have fun, and to, rather than one or two people, slaving away in the kitchen, make it a team effort. And, everybody can contribute their part, and you can discuss this even before the day. Who wants to be in charge of this, who wants to be in charge of that, and particularly engaging children. And I think too often in our society we cater to kids and we baby them, and they develop so much of a stronger core if you give them a feeling of purpose and pride.
Right.
So, if you have them, like, obviously your 15-month-old, well, her job would be to make everybody just fall in love with her.
Right.
And she does.
But once they get to be like, say, around 4, where you're not when they're not just legs with an empty head running around.
Right.
Once they get to be around 4, they could help set the table. They could put the silverware on there. You keep them away from the china and the crystal, but whatever, the plates. But they can put the napkins out and the forks and knives, and maybe help you stir something. Baked goods. Obviously, you keep them away from the oven, but engaging kids, and then those become memories that people have.
They do. I remember for my daughter's first birthday party, how many people volunteered to participate because they knew that her mother and I, we're only 2 people. We can't do everything. And so as people started to show up to the party, they volunteered. Can I put this up for you? Or can I bring this plate out for you? And the children as well, when they get to that age of 4 and 5, they want to help. They want to do something. They will volunteer their service. Can I do this? Can I carry that? Yes. They want to help. So when you steer them in that direction of doing something of purpose, that is what sticks to them like glue. And it does teach them the way of doing things together and having contribution, teamwork.
Teaches them.
That's right. The teamwork, the contribution, like you say, because they're contributing, they're doing their part to make the whole.
That's right. And then don't forget, there's the pride that they feel when they've done a job well done.
That's right. That's right. And you show them that recognition of them doing a great job.
That's right. Exactly. And, sometimes it's probably more expedient to shoo them away.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes they make more, but again, if you drop the expectation that this has to be perfect and that you have to hurry up and get it done, and just, shift gears and go back to, this is about sharing something with my child or with my niece, and just drop into that whole other space, then it becomes fun.
There you go. Let's do the last 2, because this is one of my favorite ones, number 9, music, because I have a music background. Doing the intro to this show and the outro and all the commercials, I know what doing or playing or producing music does for me as far as emotions and feeling. So give us your take on how you can make music being fun for everyone during the holidays.
Well, I bet you could answer that better yourself. I would love to hear your take on it. I just, music is just such a mood booster, and or it can be. Yeah. And why not play music? And sometimes music just brings fun. It's an atmosphere of fun. When if you're in the kitchen for hours, play music in the kitchen.
That's right.
Oh yeah, that. I do that when I'm cooking.
Yeah, me too. And I always think back on, this is probably too old of a movie for you, Kenan, but there was a movie called The Big Chill.
I've heard of that.
Yes. The college, they were best buddies in college, and they came together,
right,
decades later. But anyway, the point is that there's this fun song. I think it's Heard It Through the Grapevine that they play, and they're just cleaning the kitchen, and it's just such a fun thing. And we always call it the Big Chill moment, where we're going to get in the kitchen, clean it, and dance while we're doing it.
Right. And if that's going to be your background noise, let the music be the background noise versus what's on the 6 o'clock news.
That's right.
Because the 6 o'clock news can really kind of dim your light that day.
Yeah, I call it the screaming heads.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's basically what it is. And now we have a few minutes left, so let's do the 10th tip.
Yeah. And it's just, engage in a fun game, like, or have a competition with each other. It could be board games, it could be tag football, it could be hoops, anything that brings joy and has you interacting with each other.
Yeah.
That's typically way better than sitting down and watching TV.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, the interaction between families, from what I've seen, my observation, especially social things that are outside of the house, I see more of the distraction from the cell phone, the iPad, and these things that people pay more attention to and give their attention to versus giving their attention to the people that they've come to this gathering with and giving their attention to them.
Right.
Because again, when it comes to the family structure, it's about the emotional connection.
That's right.
You want that emotional togetherness, the emotional connection, because these are the things that will crystallize as being a memory for years to come when the technology is come and gone.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's.
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to say, and that's why number one was, unplug.
Unplug,
Right.
yes.
Basic.
I can't emphasize that enough, because without doing that, you're really kind of swimming upstream.
Right.
It's not, it's going to be hard to connect because you're going to have the distractions. So if there was one thing you were going to commit to, I would say, give it a go, just one day, and see what happens.
Just unplug, and you
Yeah.
will see all of these beautiful memories being created, and the fun you will really have if you unplug and enjoy each other, because we don't do enough of that.
You have a peace of mind too.
Yeah, and so let's give us some final thoughts and give us the audience and viewers how to reach you and get in touch with you, Michelle.
Oh, well, you can find me on my website, which is rethinkingfamilyvalues.com.
Rethinkingfamilyvalues.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And so you can email me there if you like. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to connect, or you can leave comments on my blog. Anything that you like, I'd love to hear from you.
That is Michelle Deen,
Sounds
Deen, and the website is rethinkingfamilyvalues.com.
Love it, love it. And one final, if you have a final thought quickly.
Well, I think I already gave that.
Just
and that would
unplug.
That's it.
Unplug.
Unplug, everyone. And thank you so much, Michelle. Ken, did you have a tip you wanted to share?
Well, I have a few of them. I won't go through all of them because of time. But first, I want to thank Michelle Deen for being our special guest on Aim to Purpose, the radio show, with all of her insightful. Get rid of the distractions. If there's any gist or one thing, is get rid of the distractions.
And unplug.
And unplug. Exactly. And unplug. And so I'm just going to read a few because we are running out of time here. And this is something that I typed up a couple of years back. 21 days of habitual thanks. Number 1, I am thankful for my daily awakening. Number 2, I'm thankful for breathing the energy of life. Number 3, I'm thankful for having those in my life that understand me. Let's move on down to number 7. I'm thankful to have friends, whether close or at a distance. I'm thankful to have family, whether close or at a distance. Number 13, I'm thankful for the cultural diversity of human life. Number 15, I'm thankful there are still people in the world that genuinely want world peace for all human beings.
Yes.
Number 17, I'm thankful for being able to say please and thank you. Number 19, I'm thankful for the ability to read and discern this list of thankful thoughts. Number 20, I'm thankful for having the awareness to think of reasons for being thankful. And number 21, I'm thankful for love and life itself.
And that's the most beautiful one. I'm thankful for love and life itself. And with that said, We thank you again, Michelle, for being our special guest and sharing those 10 tips on how to feed the soul on Thanksgiving. And until next week, as I always leave you with, your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.